16a, Tez Zayin Amud Aleph, right, where the lines get wide halfway down. So we discussed yesterday two opinions: if the original sanctification of Jerusalem, if that lasted, or that was nullified with the destruction of the temple. So we had two opinions of the Amoraim, thank you, of the Amoraim, and we wanted to say it sounds like it might be a discussion among the Tanaic sources. So we tried to find one place where we found a Tanaic dispute unsuccessfully. So now we're going to try again. So in the end of the Tractate Erechim, so over there it lists these 8 cities that were walled cities. And the Gemara's going to wonder, like, why'd you choose these 8 out of all the cities that were around? So, Elahani Tanai the Tanya. The following Tanaic dispute takes place. The Tanya, as the Brisa says, Amar Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel the son of Rabbi Yossi. Lama Manu Chacham Es Elu. There's 8 cities that were walled cities. Now, the Gemara in Erechim there is discussing the special laws regarding a walled city. When you sell it, how much time do you have to buy it back? What's considered a walled city? So list 8. So why these 8 cities? So I think it's 8. So Kisha'alu b'nei Agola, when the people from the exile came back, Matsu Elu, they found these 8, V'kitcham, and they sanctified them. Aval Rishonos Batlu, but all the other cities, their sanctification was nullified. Mishabat Laharetz, once the sanctification of the land was nullified, these cities' sanctification was also nullified. So what do you see from here? That even though there was at one point a sanctification, it is no longer. Ahalma Kasavar Kedusha Rishona Kitcha L'Shaita Vilo Kitcha Latzilavo. The Kedusha Rishona, the first holiness, was Kitcha. It was sanctified L'Shaita for that time. Vilo Kitcha, but it was not sanctified La'asilavo for the future.
Why did they become unsanctified, the cities?
Because, so how, I don't know. Why? Because the sanctification was only temporary, as long as the temple's there. Once it was destroyed, the sanctity went also. Okay. Yeah, right. I don't know, right, the mechanics of what gives it sanctity forever versus temporary. That's a good question. I mean, what is behind this dispute? Yeah. Why does he say it was only temporary? Why does he say it was? That's a good question. Yeah, that's okay. So Viramini, but the problem is there's a brisa that says by the same person, Amr Shom Rabbi Yossi, there's only these cities. It says in the verse, Shishim Ir, there were 60 cities. It says in Dvarim, it says Shishim Ir, Kol Chevel Argov Mamleches Og. I think what's Chevel Argov? Different cities. Mamleches Og in the region of Og. There were so many cities that were there that were what? Eila Arim Betsuros Choma. They were fortified cities. Givoa, very tall, big fortified cities. So why, if there's so many cities, why did the rabbis only count a select few? Ela lama manu es elu kishalu b'nei Agola matzu elu v'kitcham. When they found these cities, they went and they sanctified them. It says the Gemara, Kitcham, what do you mean they sanctified them? The end of the Brisa says that they don't need to be re-sanctified because they're already holy, even though the Beis Hamikdash was lost, but those cities remained with their sanctity. Ella, what it means is, Matsu Elu Umanum. They found these ones and they counted them. Velo Elu Bilvad, not only these. Ella, Kol Shetala Biyadcha Misoris Me'avosecha. Shemu Kefes Choma Mimos Yeshua Ben Nun Kol Mitzvos Elu Noagas Ba. Why? So these ones they found and they counted, but the Brisa says that it's not only these; they happen to find these, but any city which you have a tradition and it was walled from the times of Yehoshua ben Nun, from the times of Yeshua, so that's going to remain with its original sanctity. It's not going to go anywhere. That sanctity remains even after we lost the Beis Hamikdash. All the mitzvahs are going to be relevant to it. So, for instance, what day do you read the Megillah? It is dependent on, are you a walled city from Yeshua ben Nun? Are you under the category of walled cities being sold and how you buy them back, you're in a special category. That depends. Were you walled city from the time of Yehoshua ben Nun? Rashi points out if you want to send out a mitzora when there's leprosy outside to send them outside the sanctified cities. So you have to know what was sanctified from the time of Yehoshua ben Nun. But either way, so we see from here, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi says many cities they remain sanctified even years later. The problem was that the previous brisa was the same person, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, that seemed to say the opposite. So to that, the Gemara says, Kasha Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. It's a difficulty from the same person against the same person. So two answers. Ibais ema trei tanai ali b'd Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi. It could be that there's two people that each shared their opinion, what they thought their Rebbe held. He was convinced he held like this, and he was convinced he held like that. So you have a tradition. Sometimes you have that. It's hard nowadays, especially people that aren't alive anymore. You have, I live next to somebody who's a big student of Rabbi Eliashiv, a big halakhic authority for 56 years in Israel. The amount of things that are said in his name that contradict each other are like, so it depends how the person asks the question, depends on there's all these. So sometimes you could have that. That's one answer. Ibais Ema, really, Chad Minayo was actually Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. One was actually the name of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi. Amra, the Tanya, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi, Omer. So Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Yossi says, Asher lo choma, the verse regarding walled cities. So it says, it's written with a lamed vav, which means to it is a wall. However, we read it like a lamed aleph. Asher lo choma, afal pisha ein lo achshav v'hayla kodem lachem. Even though it doesn't have a wall now, but at one point it did have a wall, so therefore it's still going to have its sanctity. So that opinion of Rabbi Yossi holds that really something which got sanctity, the sanctity remains. So really, we do have these two Amarayim, Rav Huna and Rav Nachman, really do reflect two Tanaim, and therefore this is a dispute not only in the Amarayim but also in the Tanaim. Okay, turning the page, back to Bruce. So it says that if you became impure in the courtyard, and then you forgot you were impure, so you get punished. So Tumma Bazar, so says Gemara, how do you know? It's interesting the way Rashi learns. Interesting question. It says you cannot contaminate my temple. So simply understood, it means if you were impure beforehand, don't walk in and bring contamination into the temple. But how do you know if something happened to you when you were in the temple, that's also liable? Maybe it only meant you can't enter while you're in a state of impurity. But if you got impure inside, so then what's the source of that? So Tumma Bazar Minan, what's the source that if you become tummy even inside, that is a problem? Amar Blazer Kasav Echad Omer as Mishkan Hashem Tima v'Kasav Echad Omer as Mikdash Hashem Timei. So two verses. One says if you not the same, right? They're not so far from each other, like 6 to 7 seconds apart from each other. One verse says you can't come in and impurify my temple, and one says you can't impurify my tabernacle. One's the Mishkan, one's the Mikdash. Right? Simply understood, the Mishkan refers to the tabernacle, and the Mikdash refers to the temple. So says Rabbi Lazar, he seems like he understands that they can refer to each other. It's fine, and therefore one is extra. So the Kremi Asri, one's given the parentheses, one is extra. So since one is extra, one is referring to when you became impure outside and then walked in, and when you became impure inside, and now you're impure, you have to get out. So since he holds that they're extra, so therefore it's open to be a source to teach us that if you become impure in the Azara, in the courtyard, or anywhere in the temple really, that you will you have to get out of there. It's a problem. So on that assumption that these two verses are extra, the Gemara says they're not extra. Hamitzach trichi. I need you to teach me both of these. Why? The Tanya Rabbi Elazar Omer. Rabbi Elazar says, it's the same person. Maybe for a different Rabbi Elazar. It's funny, I didn't realize that. Same person. Okay. The Tanya Rabbi Elazar Omer, Im Nemar Mishkan, if the Torah says tabernacle, Lama Nemar Mikdash. So why did it say it again regarding the temple?
Oh, okay. There it says, Ben Shamua.
Okay.
I'm going to be confused with the Amora Rabbi Elazar.
So the first Rabbi Elazar, which is who? Rabbi Elazar ben Padas?
They don't give Ben who, but he was an Amora.
Right. So Amar Rabbi is the Amora. The Tanya is a Bryce. I was referring to a Tana. Okay, good. Thank you. So just it's like the same name. It's like interesting. Okay. So I mean, how did I know that the first one's an Amora? Like, there's nothing telling me it's an Amora. I don't know. So okay. So Im Namar Mishkan Lam Namar Mikdash. So if it says you cannot contaminate my tabernacle, why did it also say you can't contaminate my temple? And if it says Im Namar Mikdash, if you cannot contaminate my temple, Lam Namar Mishkan. Why did it say you cannot contaminate my tabernacle? Simply understood. Where my Shechina is, don't contaminate it. Right? That should apply to both. So says there, and therefore, and when I'll show you now that I need both of these verses. Ilu Namar Mishkan v'lo Namar Mikdash Yisi Omer al Mishkan Yechayiv Shari Mashuach B'Shem and Mishka V'al Mikdash Lo Yechayiv. If I only had this requirement, this restriction for the tabernacle, I would have said it's very special. It was anointed with the Shem and Mishka, with the special oil. So maybe only something that had that uniqueness to it. There we have a special prohibition that you cannot contaminate it. Beis Mikdash didn't have that. Temple didn't have that. So the Im Namar Mikdash, if it only said the verse regarding a temple and not the tabernacle, the Namar Mikdash lo Namar Mishkan Yisi Omer al Mikdash Yechayiv Shari Kedush Olam. The temple is going to have everlasting sanctity. I mean, it was built to last. At least the first one. It was built to last for forever. The Al Mishkan on the tabernacle, that was always temporary. The Al Mishkan lo Yechayiv, because so maybe it's more lenient because it's anyways only there temporarily. Lekach Namar Mishkan, Lekach Namar Mikdash. Therefore, we need both. Therefore, no verse is extra, and therefore you have no source to teach me if you become impure inside the courtyard, that's going to be a problem. Yeah. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Elazar, our Rabbi Elazar, that thought it was extra, how is he going to respond to this? So he's going to say, Halchika Kasha. He had the following difficulty. Michti, let's see. Mishkan Ikri Mikdash, Umikdash Ikri Mishkan. So according to him, he didn't understand why the Torah, he had difficulty with the fact that the Torah switched its language. It used, it says, Mishkan is called Mikdash, and Mikdash is called Mishkan. He's going to prove to you that when it says tabernacle, it could refer to the temple. When it says temple, it could refer to the tabernacle. So he was bothered by just nichtov, write one or the other. Since they each could refer to each other, and he'll prove that to us, once they could refer to each other, so when it comes to this special uniqueness that it has that you can't become impure, just pick one. If you just wrote Mishkan, I'll know it applies to the temple. If you just wrote Mikdash, I'll know it applies to the tabernacle. So why did it switch? Nichtav, O-E-D-V-D Mikdash, O-E-D-V-D Mishkan. Either you should write both of them temple or both of them tabernacle. So Mishkan u Mikdash lamali. Why is it extra? Why did it switch? Shma mina tarti, to teach you two things. To teach you one, that you cannot become impure when you go in. You can't become impure and enter. And you can't remain impure when you're already there. So, okay. So that's how he understands his the source of how I know that if you become impure when you're inside the temple, that you have to get out of there. Because the Torah should have stayed consistent. Mishkan and Mikdash, either Mishkan or Mikdash. The fact that it switched was open for interpretation, and therefore he interprets it this way. Okay. So correction maybe. Shma mina tarti, that you learn two things. I think the two things is first of all, it says it twice. So since it says it twice, it's open for interpretation for him. Secondly, since it switches, it's there to teach you that just like the tabernacle is impure, so too the Beis Hamikdash also has the same qualification. Just like the Beis Hamikdash, you can't become impure. So too the Mishkan. So the two things are, first of all, it says it twice. So therefore, one is open for interpretation, and the fact that it switches, that's a second thing. That's a second exposition that you can pull out of there. The fact that it switches the word, it'll teach you that they apply both to the tabernacle and both to the temple. Okay. Now, where do you see that the temple is called the tabernacle and the tabernacle is called the temple? Bishlam Mikdash Ikri Mishkan. I'll prove to you that the Mikdash, the Beis HaMikdash, is called Mishkan. It can be referred to as a tabernacle. Dichsiv v'nasati mishkani b'sochem. I'm going to place my Mishkan in your midst. I'm going to place my Shechina in your midst. And that applies to wherever you're going to build a temple for the Shechina, whether it's a tabernacle or whether it's a temple. Ela Mishkan, where do you find that the tabernacle is called a mikdash? Ela Mishkan, Dikri Mikdash Mino, and how do I know? So let's see. If you're going to tell me it's from the verse that is in Bamidbar, it says Vinasu HaKahatim, the Kahatim, one of the children of Levi, they were the Nosei HaMikdash, they were carrying the Mikdash, and that's referring to the tabernacle, not the Mikdash. So maybe that's your proof. Well, the problem is, Hahu Ba'aron Ksiv. When it says Mikdash over there, it just means it's referring to the Aron Kodesh. It's referring to that thing which is holy, the Mikdash. So that's not a proof. Ela Mehacha, learn it out from here. Famous verse, the Asuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'socham. I will build for me a temple, and I will dwell in your midst. I will dwell in your midst, and the Medrash says that it means each person is supposed to build their own tabernacle in their own hearts, so God can dwell in it. Yeah, in them. Uksiv, and the verse says, Kichol asher ani mara oscha es tavnis hamishkan. So the verse following says, the verse following that, it says, everything I showed you in the Mishkan, so you should go and do. So the introduction to building the Mishkan is you should build a Mikdash. So you see that the Mishkan, the tabernacle, can be referred to by the word temple. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So the next part of the Mishnah taught us that, okay, so now we know the source, right? We're going in order over here. We know the source that, we know the source of how that someone who becomes impure inside the temple, that's a problem. So now the question is, how long does he have to linger around to be liable? So the Mishnah said, either hishtachava, he has to bow down, or shaha kidei hishtachava, or he has to linger around for the time it takes him to bow down. So either you bow down while you're impure, or you linger for the amount it would take you to bow down. So now, you get a little more details about which kind of bowing down, how long you have to linger for. Amar Rava. Oh, there we go. Start off Sunday with an yeah. There you go. Amar Rava. Lo Shani. You just feel bad for that guy who's impure in the temple, right? Yeah, that's what. Amar Rava.
How do I get out of here?
How do I get out of here? Yeah. Very clear fire exits. So Amar Tame exits. Yeah.
Violating the rule. There's no exits.
Amar Rava. So Rava says, Lo Shanu Ella. This Lo Shanu, meaning we only taught this, that you're liable for bowing down when you bow down klape pnim, towards the inner part, meaning towards west. If you bow down facing the outside, meaning facing east, towards the exit, so then it depends. If you were shaha in lo shaha lo, then it's only if you actually waited the amount of time it takes to bow down. If not, then you're fine. So Rava right now understands that the bowing was primarily a problem of bowing impurely towards the Holy of Holies, towards that direction. That's when the act of bowing is a problem. But other than that, as long as you waited or bowed, but you have to wait that amount of time it takes to bow, then you're going to be in trouble. So according to this, if you would bow facing the exit, but you would bow for a very, very short period of time, then you wouldn't be liable. So some teach it though a little bit differently. Ikedemasni law, a seifa. Teach this qualification on the end of, meaning not on the first part. We had two things: bowing and waiting. We just qualified bowing. It refers to only bowing towards the west, towards the inner part. But now teach a qualification. Really, some teach it on the end of the sentence, on the seifa. Ikedemasni a seifa. If you waited in impurity, the amount of time it takes to bow down, michlal, implying the hishtachava gufa by yishihiyah, implying that bowing down itself requires an amount of time. So no matter what happens, you have to bow an amount of time. Amar Rava, when is this said? Lo shanu ella. When you're bowing towards the exit, towards the outside, then that bowing has a time limit. It has to be a certain minimum. However, aval klape pnim, when you're bowing towards the inside, afal gav de lo shaha, even though you did not wait the amount of time, you're still going to be liable. The hachikamer, and this is how you read the Mishnah. Hishtachave klape pnim. You bow down towards the inside, so towards the west, towards the Holy of Holies. Or sheshaha kidei hishtachava. Or you wait the amount of time it takes to bow down. So behach hishtachava de klape chutz chayev. With that kind of bowing down, where you waited that amount of time, so you are going to be liable. So sounds very similar. Bowing for even there's no minimum. Any bowing towards the inside, facing the inside, if you're in impurity, state of impurity, you're liable. However, facing the outside, it has to be a bowing that's only has a certain minimal limit to it. So now, heichidami the ishtachava is bashahiyah. The heichidami ishtachava the less bashahiyah. Right? You're thinking, how long is bowing down? What kind of bowing down is this? One takes 1.2 seconds, one takes 1.7 seconds. I mean, how long does it take to bow down? So what's a bowing down that requires time? And what's a bowing down that does not require time? So we're going to end up with 3 kinds of bowings. Yeah? So some very important laws, right? There's one kind of bowing that we don't do except for on Yom Kippur. Oh, yeah. Right? So another kind of bowing we do in Shemon Esrei. So it's interesting. So let's see. So the less bashahiyah, a bowing that takes no time, is zu kriya ba'alma, just a regular bow. We'll see what that means. Just like this, a regular head nod, head bow. We'll see. Maybe a little more. Okay, we'll see. It's called kriya, bowing down. So, right, when you say in aleinu, anachnu korim u'mishachar, and that's the same word. So, yeah, mishachar is also the bow down. Yeah. So, okay, that's kriya ba'alma, regular bow. We'll see what that means in a second. Kriya ba'alma, the isba shehiyah, one that has the amount of time, the requisite amount of time. What kind of bowing is that? Pishut yadayim v'raglayim, spreading out of hands and feet. Sounds like total hands and feet submission. So that's that. Now, how much is that time? Kama shehir shehiyah. How much is that time of waiting? So now, pliki bar Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani, v'chad'im. Okay, a little parenthetical over here. Either Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani and one guy that was with him argue, and who's that guy who money Rav Shimon ben Pazi? He's Rav Shimon ben Pazi. Or some say v'amrila Rav Shimon ben Pazi v'chad'im. It was Rav Shimon ben Pazi and someone who was with him, and who's that? Money Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani. So it's the same too, just who's the Batman, who's the Robin, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. Who's the head, who's the sidekick? I don't know. So yeah, it's either Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani and Rav Shimon Pazi, or no, Rav Shimon Pazi and Rav Yitzchak bar Nachmani. So yeah, so the Amri Law, or some say it was Rav Shimon ben Nachmani, not Rav Shimon Pazi. Okay, maybe they're brothers. Yeah. So either way, these two opinions, Chad Amar Kememer Dehayip Sukkah, v'Chad Amar Kimim Vayichru L'Seifa. So we're going to have a verse in Divrei Hayamim, which seems like it's referring to the getting of the Torah. So one says it's going to be the amount of time it takes to say this verse, and one says it's only the amount of time it takes from the middle of the verse to the end, because the verse reads that all the Jews, they saw the fire come down, and the honor of God was on the Al-Habayis. Sorry, not the receiving of the Torah. Sounds like the building of the Beit HaMikdash. And then they all bowed down. They all bowed down on the ground, and they were submitted themselves and thanked God. Right? It's referring to building the temple. This first no. It says the cover came down on the bayis, on the house, not on the mountain. Yeah. Okay. If you know what Divrei Yamim is, the very end of Tanakh, speak up now. Okay. So what's this verse? So the Kol Bnei Yisrael roim beredis eish. They saw the fire come down, and the honor of God came down on the house. And they bowed down their face on the ground. All of its they bowed down with their face. Arza al haritzba, on the ground. I'm not sure exactly. The yishtachavu, and they bowed down. The hodos l'Hashem kitov ki liolam chas, and they thanked God because His goodness is eternal. Yeah. So now, however long it takes to read that verse, that's how long it takes. That's how long the amount of shehiyah waiting is. And the other opinion says no, only from that middle part of the verse where it starts off talking about bowing down, from there until the end. I don't know, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 2 seconds. Yeah. Depends who's davening, right? Yeah, it depends if an Israeli's davening or an American's davening. Yeah. Yeah. So now 3 different kinds of bowing. Tanar ban kida. The special kind of kida is al apayim. Now, I didn't try this, but imagine bowing down, like, who can touch your toes, that kind of competition. So you're bowing down fully, so much so that you're only standing on your big toes. I think that's referring to. You're really fully, it's like very hard to do. I don't know. Yeah, you're like all the way over, and only your big toes are keeping you up. So I mean, you can check the footnote if it argues.
The meaning of the two big toes.
Yeah, well, one big toe is already the Olympics. Yeah, two big toes. Yeah, so I think that's what did you say?
That's just the national.
That's just the national, yeah. I think so. I mean, you can tell me if it says something else. First I misunderstood. I thought I meant you're standing up on your two big fingers.
Oh.
I was like, how in the world is that working?
Yeah.
I didn't get it. And then I realized it's on your two big toes. And that made a little more sense. Yeah, so for the flexible ones in the crowd. So, yeah. So this is for you. V'cheinu omer, and it says, V'tiket bas sheva apayim arza, and she went down on the ground. Bas sheva, she bowed down. Sounds like all the way on the ground. So meaning her leaned over her face, and her big toes are holding her up. So that's one form of bowing down. Kriya is al habirkayim. Kriya is bowing down with your knees. So you don't just nod your head, but you bow down with the way we do for Shemona Esrei. You bow down with your knees bent also. I guess we really bow our waist. No, but we do. We do.
We do both.
Yeah, we do both. Yeah. So v'cheinu omer michroa al birkav, bowing down with your knees. Yeah. Also, Elena, called berach lechat every knee is going to be submissive. Submit themselves to you.
It'd be different if it was barefooted or you're wearing shoes. You're easier to bow down on your two big toes if
you're barefoot.
If you're barefoot.
Right. Hishtachava regular. So this bowing down is spreading out. Zu pisha yadayim v'raglayim. Yeah. So we don't do. Right. We don't do that nowadays. Really. That's only for the base of English, I think. V'chein omer havo navo ani ve'imcha v'achak l'shtachos l'cha arza. It's not going to come, me, my mother, my brother, l'shtachos l'cha arza, and bow down on the ground. Total outward submission. Prostrate, that's a good word. Prostrate ourselves. Yeah. Okay. So now, Bayi Rava. Now we have a bunch of questions, and hopefully enough time to answer them. Don't worry, they won't be answered. Don't worry. So Bayi Rava, Sarich Shehiyah L'Malkus. Oh, ain't Sarich Shehiyah L'Malkus.
Waiting for Elijah.
That's right, exactly. A lot of those coming up. So so it's an interesting question, but basically, this amount of waiting, so it's only for a korban, it's also for malchus. Oh, ein tzarich shehiyah lemalchus. So what's the question? Lekorban gemiri shehiyah lemalchus lo gemiri shehiyah. We only learned for a korban to bring a sacrifice, you have to wait the amount of time, and then and only then do you bring a sacrifice. But lemalchus lo gemiri shehiyah. However, for malchus, any amount of time that you're there is going to be a problem. Lo gemiri shehiyah. Therefore, that we didn't learn. We didn't learn a source for that. Odilma, no. Odilma bifnim gemiri shehiyah. No, we learned being impure inside is a problem. Lo shna lekorban, v'lo shna lemalchus teku. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, fine. So. Okay, this case I don't know if you have to give me a picture of this. Bayi Rava. Oh, so teku. So we don't know. Bayi Rava. Tala atza ba'avir. You hanged yourself in the airspace of the courtyard. How'd you do that? I don't know. Monkey bars. How do you hang yourself in the airspace of the courtyard? You hung onto a tree.
Not remain standing on the floor, but stood on.
So you agree that we need a picture? Okay. So I don't know how to do it.
He did not remain standing on the floor, but stood on a post so that his feet did not touch the ground.
It's not really he hanged himself. Okay. Oh, okay, good. It says he hanged himself. I don't know how this works. The point that he didn't stand on the interesting. That's what he called. I guess he uplifted himself in the airspace. Okay, how do you on a post? Okay, good. Thank you. By Rava Tala Atzma Ba'avir Azara Mahu. So what's the halacha over there? It has to be a shehiyah waiting time where you're able to bow down. But I guess if you're on a post, on the ground, then you can't bow down. on the ground. The lav basi shtachava lo gmiri, or maybe no. We never learned that this will be a problem if you can't bow down. Odilma, no. Inside, any impurity inside is a problem. Odilma bifnim shehia gmiri lo shna debasi shtachava lo shna lav basi shtachava teku. Doesn't matter if you are able or not able to bow down. Teku.
Feet are in the air.
Bow down. Right. So does that matter?
Karate Kid style.
Karate Kid style. So does that matter or not? Teku. So Bayir of Ashi Time Atzel B'Mezid Mahu. If you impurified yourself on purpose, Mahu. So this is interesting. B'Ones Gmiri Shehia B'Mezid Lo Gmiri Shehia. This whole idea of waiting is only when you did it. Accidentally, but if you did it on purpose, then right away we get you. You don't have to wait anything. Or Dilma bifnim gmir shehia lo shna bonus lo shna b'mezid teku. Or no, the amount of time you have to wait is no matter what happens. That's just the rule of impurity inside, whether it's unavoidable or whether you did it on purpose. Teku, it's a real bad guy, right? In a temple, I will impurify myself. It's like, I don't know, not good. Yeah. So now once we started talking about all these things, so Bayir of Ashi, a Nazir cannot go into the graveyard. So Bayir of Ashi, Nazir bekever. So he goes to do a Castle Cemetery cleanup. So and then he realizes, oh no. So does he need Shehila Malchus or Einotarch? Oh, Einotarch. In the event that you say that you do get Malchus also, what about this Nazir? Does that apply to him also? So Bifnim Gmiri Shehia B'chutz Lo Gmir Sheh. Maybe you only learned this when it was regarding to inside, meaning inside the temple. There you need the amount of time. But Shehiyah b'chutz lo gmiri, things outside like a nazir in the basic kvaros in the cemetery, that we didn't learn. Lo gmiri shehiyah, no, he'll be right away. Oh dilma, no, but ones gmiri shehiyah lo shna b'fnim lo shna b'chutz. We learned that when one becomes impure accidentally, so for that you have to have, and then you remember, so you have to have amount of time that it takes to bow down. It doesn't matter if you're in the Beis Hamikdash, and it doesn't matter if you are a Nazir. At the end of the day, someone who gets impurified accidentally is only liable for a korban when he waits that amount of time. Yeah. Teku. Okay. Eliyahu Navi. Yeah. So now we mentioned that you have to. Okay, we have time. Yeah. Yeah. So we mentioned that there is a short way and a long way to get out of the Beis Hamikdash. So you find that, oh my gosh, I just became impure. The creepy crawly got me. Yeah. So now you have two ways to go. So the Mishnah said you go the long way, so you're liable. You go the short way, you're not liable. Now, Amar Rava, Ksara, the short way, Sha'amru, Afilu Ekev B'tzad Godel. Even if your heel is right in front of your big foot, meaning you're walking very slowly. Right, the same way you're taking 3 steps back for Shemona Esrei. Yeah, I believe it's the same halacha. When you take 3 steps back. And even if you're walking with the heel of, let's say, your right foot is just going right in front of the front of your left foot, and then the heel of your left foot is going in front. So you're walking like that very slowly. Vafilu kol hayom kula. So Rava says if you do that, even if you do this the whole entire day, it takes you 20 hours to get out on a 15-minute exit, you're going as slowly as possible, it doesn't matter. You're still taking the shorter route. You're not taking the longer route.
Sounds more like a drug test.
Yeah, you're gonna have to ask Steve later. So sorry. But I'm not really sorry, don't worry. So Bayirava. So now Shehios, these waitings, Mahu Shiyit Starfu. So a funny question. Do all the waitings combine together to make you liable? So let's say it takes 4 seconds is the amount of waiting that makes you liable. So you waited 2 seconds and then 2 seconds and then 2 seconds, 2 seconds. So you didn't do 4 in one shot, but you did a combination of 2s. So says the Gemara, why doesn't he just answer his own question? V'tifshulei mididei. He just mentioned if you take your 20-hour walk, the shore in the basin, you'll be liable. Sounds like I'm sorry, you won't be liable. So no. So it says no. Hasam b'deloi shaha. There you kept walking. You're a slowpoke, but you kept walking. He wants to know now, let's say you didn't walk. You stopped for 1 second, kept walking, stopped for 1 second, kept walking.
Spaghetti's keys, it wasn't an arrow.
What is that? Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I was thinking that by Shabbos, by carrying, the Gemara mentions two kinds of distinction. It mentions a distinction of two kinds of stopping. There's a stopping to like readjust, and there's a stopping to rest. That's interesting. I was wondering if it plays out over here at all, or here it doesn't matter. So you're gonna fix the backpack, or you're just really taking a water break. So yeah, okay. So that's Rava. Now, Baimine Abaye, Baimine Abaye me Rabba. Abaye came and inquired from Rabba. So, Balo be'arucha shir ktsara mahu. You sprinted through the long way. What happened over there? So basically what we're going to ask is, when it says long way and short way, did it mean just the time it takes? We want the time. We don't care which way you go, but if the long way takes a normal person 15 minutes to get through, and the short way takes you 7 minutes to get out, so we care about 15 and 7. So if you run out the long way, or dilly-dally the short way, you'll be good, or you won't be good. Or you say, no, there's a long way and a short way, and you have to take that way. It's not the time, it's the distance, right? So the short way takes you a mile to get out. And
the intent.
It's the intent, right? So let's say the long way is a mile to get out, and the short way is half a mile to get out, that we want you to get out in the half a mile. It's the amount of space. So space versus time, or distance traveled versus time traveled. Yeah, what would Waze do? You plug in Waze, and nobody's make this get me out of here. So which would it take you? Probably time-wise. Recalculating, yeah. No, that's Shahia. That's a problem.
You go the speed of light, you can do it like infinity.
Right, you can do the speed of light, right? So I guess if you have superpowers, then you're good. Yeah. So okay, so Mahu. So now we're asking Shir. Charles is gonna walk with a lot of comments now about superpowers, and yeah. Okay, so Mahu, Shir Gamiri. Did you learn the amount of time? It's what matters at the time. I don't care short, long way. I care about 15 minutes, 7 minutes. That's what I care about. And therefore, if you sprint through the long way, you're good. And if you dilly-dally the short way, then you're not good. So time to get out, right? So v'chi balo ba'arucha shir ktsara pater. If you go the long way, but you run, so let's say it's a 15-minute walk through the long way, but you do it in 10 minutes. That's fine. Oh, Dilma, no. Dafka Gmiri Barucha Chayiv. If you take the long way, the mile of the long way, you'll be liable. Biktsara Pater. So even if you run through the long way, you still traveled a distance of a mile, you're liable. And the guy who dilly-dallied going down the short way, taking, observing all the like the tours to New York City, right? Take you forever to walk one block because your head's in the sky looking at all the skyscrapers. So, but at the end of the day, he only traveled half a mile. Then you'll be exempt. So this is what Abai asked Rabba. Amarle, he told him, Lo nisna arucha lehidachos atzlo. No, the long way can't be pushed off for him. Meaning, just because he ran through the long way, the Torah says the long way means the long way. So even if you run through, it doesn't matter. You'll be liable. So running through the long way, irrelevant. You cannot take the long way. You can't take the mile route. You got to take the half mile route. Okay. Maskif Reb Zera comes with a question. Maskif Reb Zera. Ela de kaimalon that timei sheshimesh b'misa. It's an interesting case. We know that someone who's impure, who serves in the temple, he's liable for death upon heaven, right? So now you have someone who's impure and he's serving in the temple. What's the case where he'll be liable? The death penalty, the heavenly death penalty. Heichi mishkachasla. So let's think. Idelo shaha. If it was under the amount of time it takes, well then heichi avid avoda. Like he can't do the avoda for 2 seconds. So the guy became impure, right? So what's the case of a guy that became impure that goes and does service in the temple? The second you realize you're impure, you have to get out of there. Now, if you waited the amount of time, so you're liable. If you're impurifying yourself beforehand and you walk in, you're chayav kares. But if inside the temple you found out that you were impure, what's the case of when you serve, you're liable for death in the hands of heaven? So if you waited, if you didn't wait the amount of time, right? So you like less than a second, 2 seconds, or 4 seconds, you can't do any avoda in that time period. And idishaha, if you did wait the amount of time, then bar kares, then you get kares. So what's the case where you found out you're impure, you served in the temple, and you're liable for the death in the hands of heaven? If you waited past the amount of time it takes you to bow down, let's say 4 seconds, you're liable for kares. And if not, well, you can't do any service in that time period. Yeah. So now, says the Gemara, well, if you're learning out that it's what we care about is the time, not the distance, so then I can find you a case. Mishkachasla, the anus nafshe biktsara, the avad avoda. So he realized he was impure, and he's going out the short way, and so he's jogging out of there. So means let's say it takes you 10 minutes to get out. So if under 10 minutes you won't be liable, then it's good. You became impure. Now you can jog through to get out of there, so that you won't be there for that period of time that will make you liable. And then I guess, when did you do the avoda? Beforehand?
Beforehand, yeah. So you reckon you get up pretty quick.
Oh, so you did it right. So you found out you were impure, and now you know that let's say it's 10 minutes for me to be here while I'm impure. To that's how long it takes to get out. But I could do it in 6. So now in those 3 minutes, you went to do one of the services in the temple, and then you sped out of there as fast as possible. So you never were there for the amount of time it takes to get out of there. So that makes sense. But Ella, turn the page. Amr's dafka gemiri. If there's only 2 ways to get out, the short way and the long way, we don't care how long it takes you. Then heichi mishkachasla. Then how is it possible to be liable in the hands of heaven? Because you have to take the short route. So how's it going to work? So even if you run the shorter route, if you waited the amount of time, you're going to be liable no matter what, even if you run afterwards, because we don't care about running. We care about taking the shorter route. So once you found out you're impure, you have to start getting out the shorter route. You can't wait for 2 minutes and then speed it and get 7 minutes in. It's not going to work. So says the Gemara, my kusha, what's the problem? He went the short way. He had a long pitchfork on him. The hafach b'tzinor, and he went, and on his way, he turned over the coals by the pyre. According to Rav Huna, even turning over, if you're a non-Kohen, turning over the coals to we'll see really the next Gemara, basically to speed up the process of it burning, that's also considered a service. So basically, we found you a service you could do, which takes a second. So as you're going out there, you quickly put the pitchfork in and you turn the coals, and that would be a service that you would do that would make you liable.
That's also anything visible if you're actually on top of the mistake.